The year is 1066. England is in chaos. King Edward the Confessor has died without an heir, leaving a power vacuum that three powerful men are desperate to fill. This isn't just a story from a history book. It's the epic saga of ambition, betrayal, and a single day of battle that would change the course of England and the world forever. So, who were our contenders for the throne? First, we have Harold Godwinson, the most powerful Earl in England. An Anglo-Saxon, born and bred on English soil, he was chosen by the English Council, the Witan, to be the next king. He had the home advantage, the support of the people, and a fierce determination to protect his land. But across the English Channel, another claimant was watching and waiting, William, the Duke of Normandy. A distant cousin of the late King Edward, William claimed that Edward had promised him the throne years ago. He even alleged that Harold Godwinson himself had sworn an oath to support his claim. William was a hardened, ruthless military commander, and he began assembling a massive invasion fleet to take what he believed was rightfully his. And just to make things more complicated, there was a third player, Harald Hardrada, the King of Norway. His name literally means hard ruler, and he was a legendary Viking warrior. His claim was a bit more complex, based on an old agreement between a previous Danish king of England and his own predecessor. Hardrada saw England's instability as the perfect opportunity to revive the great Viking North Sea Empire. 3 men, 1 crown. The stage was set for a monumental conflict. In early September, the first blow fell. Harold Hardrada, allied with Harold Godwinson's own exiled brother, Tostig, landed his massive Viking army in the north of England. They swept through the local defenses and captured the city of York. King Harold Godwinson, who had been waiting in the south for William's invasion, had to make a difficult choice. In an incredible feat of endurance, he force-marched his army nearly 200 miles north in just 4 days. On September 25th, Harold's army took the Vikings completely by surprise at a place called Stamford Bridge. The battle was brutal and bloody. Legend says a single giant Viking axeman held the bridge against the entire English army before being taken down from below. But in the end, Harold Godwinson achieved a stunning victory. Both Harold Hardrada and Tostig were killed, and the Viking threat was eliminated for good. It was a glorious moment for the English king, but he had no time to celebrate. Because just 3 days later, on September 28th, the winds in the English Channel finally changed. William of Normandy and his invasion force landed on the south coast of England, at Pevensey. They were unopposed. Harold's army was exhausted, battered, and hundreds of miles away. Now he had to turn his weary soldiers around and march all the way back south to face an even greater threat. Imagine the state of the English army. They had just fought a savage battle and then marched the entire length of the country. They were tired, and their numbers were depleted. Yet, Harold knew he had to confront William quickly before the Norman Duke could consolidate his position. Harold gathered what fresh troops he could along the way and established a defensive position atop a ridge known as Senlac Hill, about 7 miles from the town of Hastings. On the morning of October 14, 1066, the two armies faced each other. Harold's English army, the Fyrd, was composed almost entirely of infantry. Their greatest strength was the shield wall, a formidable, interlocking line of shields that was almost impossible to break. They held the high ground, which was a huge advantage. Below them, William's Norman army was a different beast altogether. It was a combined arms force of archers, infantry, and, most importantly, heavily armored knights on horseback. This was the cutting edge of medieval military technology, and the English had never faced anything quite like it. The battle for the future of England was about to begin. The battle raged all day, a brutal, seesawing contest of attrition. The Norman archers fired volley after volley, but the arrows mostly glanced off the high-held shields of the English wall. William then sent his infantry and cavalry charging up the hill, but they crashed against the shield wall and were repulsed time and time again. The English line held firm. At one point, a rumor spread that William had been killed, and the Norman attack began to falter. William had to ride through his troops, lifting his helmet to show his face and rally his men. The turning point came through a mix of Norman cunning and English inexperience. Twice, Norman forces feigned a retreat, pretending to flee down the hill. Some of the English soldiers, eager for victory, broke their disciplined shield wall formation to chase after them. It was a fatal mistake. The Norman knights turned, surrounded the pursuing English, and cut them down. This weakened the formidable English line. As dusk began to fall, the battle reached its climax. William ordered his archers to fire their arrows high, arcing them over the front of the shield wall to fall on the men behind. It was during this final, desperate assault that fate intervened. A stray arrow is said to have struck King Harold Godwinson in the eye, mortally wounding him. With their king fallen and their shield wall broken, the English resistance crumbled. The Normans surged up the hill, and the battle was won. William marched to London and was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day, 1066, but his victory at Hastings was just the beginning. The Anglo-Saxon nobility was replaced by a new French-speaking Norman aristocracy. They built stone castles across the country to enforce their rule, symbols of a new and often brutal regime. The English language itself was transformed, absorbing thousands of French words, which is why we have words like beef from the French boeuf and pork from pork. The entire social, political, and cultural landscape of England was remade. The Battle of Hastings wasn't just another battle, it was the birth of modern England. It forged a new identity, a new language, and a new direction for the nation that would one day build an empire. The echoes of that single day in 1066 still resonate in our language, our laws, and our culture. The story of Harold, William, and the battle that decided it all is a powerful reminder of how history can turn on a single moment. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to 1066. If you enjoyed this dive into history, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Let me know in the comments what historical event you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious.